Good morning, everyone. Well, we don't know if this is going to be in the morning or they're going to see it at night or they're going to see it in the daytime. But my name is Jeanette. I'm the owner of Ivy Juice Bar, and this is Miss Rika. And I talked to her at a dojo event. Okay, let me rewind. So this is our first table talk. I talked about this a few weeks ago, and honestly, it was Taylor from Neo Martial Arts who came in and we did like a little live thing, and she liked it, and she's like, you should do this and bring moms and we should talk. And I was like, it's a great idea. So I was at her event for Neo Martial Arts, and it was a dojo mama event, I think is what it was, and self-care event. Rika was there, I was there, Brandy was there.
Yes.
Brandy.
Mm-hmm.
And then Taylor was there, and
a bunch of other moms.
And then a bunch of other moms who were just there on a Friday night, just trying to spend time with other women and then lift each other up. And it was beautiful. And I was just talking to Rika. I had never met her, and we had just started talking, and somehow we got into her story. And I was like, girl, you have to share this with the world. And so I invited her to be, you're the first one that's like doing this with me. So I am so excited that she's here, and we're going to just kind of talk, and then we're going to try to keep it short. So I'm going to set a timer so that we can make sure that we're, respect each other's time. We'll try to keep it short. And then we'll do these, we'll do another one again with Taylor, because Taylor wanted to be here, but she couldn't because she was really busy. But Rika, go ahead and I guess just start off by let's introduce yourself, like who you are, what you're doing right now, and then we'll get into some of that stuff at the end of the talk.
Okay, well, I'm Rika Baum, and I do a lot of things. I do a lot of volunteering. So one of the biggest things I'm doing right now is I volunteer with an organization and a nonprofit and a ministry at our church called Embrace Me, and that helps with foster and adoption. And I don't know if you know this, but May is actually foster care month, or I think that's what it's called.
Oh my God, that's amazing that we're doing this on the 1st of May, and it happens to be that. That's awesome.
So that's exciting, and it worked out perfectly.
Yes.
But so we do.
I got the chills right there, seriously. Like how it all kind of works out. I'm sorry. Okay, go.
So we offer information. So if you want information on how to become a foster parent, how to how to do adoption. We do foster care, through the county, private, as well as international. There's kin adoption. There's all sorts of types of different things, and we help with that. We help with services to help you in the beginning of your journey all the way post-adoption, because what people don't understand is a lot of times after the placement happens, that's when you need the most support. That's when you need the most services. And then we also offer support, which is really important in a lot of community.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, this year we're really focusing on, building relationships outside of our monthly meetings, outside of, maybe one event, and kind of, do life together.
Yeah.
And so when I was younger, I was adopted at 3 months, and so a lot of our parents around our city and community noticed a lot of white people with Asian kids, and so they started talking, and then they created a group called International Families, and that was a support group for a lot of my friends, and a lot of them were still in contact, which is great, through social media and things like that. And so it was really great to be able to grow up and look at their family dynamic and look at yours and say, okay, I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people know adoption and being in the foster system. You can grow up with some, issues specific to, and a lot of it comes through like rejection and abandonment, identity crisis, and who am I, and where do I kind of fit in this family, in this world, kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. And so it's great to be able to grow up knowing, a lot of these girls and see that we're same. Yeah. And so now we're offering that at a larger scale. which is really awesome.
Yeah.
And we have quite a few families. We just did an Easter event where we got Easter baskets donated, and we got to let all the kids go out and do, an Easter egg hunt.
Oh,
and
amazing.
we did, family photos, and it was all free, all, people that just come together and network with us and just want to bless our families. So it's really awesome.
Awesome. All of that you said so much. So you were adopted at 3 months, you said. So one of the things that really interested me when I was talking to her is that she's now on that journey.
Yes.
Yeah, you've adopted already?
We're in the process.
You're in the process of adopting right now. How, for anybody who's interested in that, like, how does that work, or how long have you been doing this? Why are you doing, just basically just talk about that part, what you're doing right now.
Yeah, so when my husband and I met, we actually had talked, and I told him, point blank, like, I'm gonna adopt, so are you on or off, kind of a thing. And he actually felt like he was called to adoption too in Thailand, which is what we're doing right now. So and I guess our family is a little bit unique too. So I am one of 4 adopted. There's 6 kids total, and then his family has 12 total, and 8 of them are adopted. So between our 2 families, we pretty much cover almost every single, I think, type of adoption. We have kin adoption, we have international, we have foster to adopt, we have biracial, we have sibling sets, we have older adoption, infant adoption, and all in between. So our parents are really awesome people and have really worked hard to, make us all feel accepted and loved and special and believed in us, and it was really awesome. And so I think part of that is another reason it's like, well, how can I not give a child an opportunity that was given to me, given to my siblings, and given to my, in-laws. And so that's kind of, I think, kind of the driving force. And there's so many kids out there that just need love, want it, like, so desperately. And so we were blessed, financially, to be able to do this. And so we haven't really put a cap on how many we're going to do. But right now we're in the process with Thailand, which is an interesting country. Not a lot of people adopt from there. But we actually just met with our social worker, and they said that he's seen a lot more. So that's really great. But we've been in it for about 2.5 years. And
that's the part that was, I was talking to her about that because I listened to Rachel Hollis, and she also adopted, and she talks about it in her book, which is called Girl Wash Your Face.
I was like,
Girl Wash Your Face. She talks about the adoption process and how long it was and all of the ups and downs of it, and it's really intense, but she just wanted to kind of put it out there because it's really difficult.
It is. There's a lot of loops and things to jump through, which is good too, because you see, I'm sure everybody has seen in the news at some point in time, adopted kids or foster kids in the foster system have been really abused and neglected, and so they do have these barriers to kind of like weed out, I think, the people that we don't want, that shouldn't be parents. And so in some cases you're like, well, that's good, like I'll jump through those hoops, but then other times you're like, come on, like, I've gone through everything, please just let me have my child. So we're 2.5 years in. We have not even been fully approved. Thailand has its own different, and every country has their own set of, I guess you could say, rules and guidelines, kind of a thing. And Thailand has very strict ones. So we are working through that. We really believe that this is where we're supposed to be at. And we are praying that, our boys pray every night that they'll get their little sister soon by Christmas. So we're believing for that. But I think the journey's kind of good. Like, you have so many people coming around you, and like the community through Embrace Me and just through friends and family that know what we're walking through. They've been unbelievably supportive, and so that's been really awesome just to see so many people support us through this length, and we're not sure when the end game is. but that's okay, because we're growing in the process. We're learning to trust that this is what we feel is right, and we feel that this is what God has told us to do, so we're going to keep doing it. And then the second we hear the okay, like, we'll start preparing to be a family of 5. And so
that's amazing.
So it's great,
and I can relate with that, just trusting in the process. Like, we have to be able to be at that point. And I know that one of the things how I can kind of relate with you right now as just a mom, and I'm sure you can also relate because you have your babies, those 9-10 months that you have when you're pregnant. Like, for me, I had gestational diabetes, so that considered me high risk. I had some other things that were going on, and the birth itself and the ring of fire and all that stuff that happens, and
they don't tell you about.
They don't tell you about, and the late nights, not being able to sleep, the sciatica that I got, all that stuff that happens in those 9 or 10 months. That's all part of the journey. That's all part of you becoming a mom, and so all of this that you guys are going to is just making it so that you are just, when it happens, that moment, it just makes you so much more grateful for everything, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how I felt my entire pregnancy, so I can relate with you in that sense, because I know nothing about being adopted. So but that's amazing. I wanted to talk about one thing that you said, and that was identity, and being able to find out who you are, because again, I think I can identify with her on that, because I felt very neglected as a child. I felt like I didn't really have anybody. I was just kind of in my room. I just shared this on Instagram the other day, where I wouldn't even open up a new box of cereal because I felt like it was in my home. And it was me, it was my dad and my stepmom, though. She wasn't very open and loving. This is just how she is, though, and I can talk about that in another video. But how do you feel, like, how can you guide somebody who has been in the foster system, has maybe had those pains, and feel like, what is my identity? How can you kind of give them some guidance on that?
Yeah, so I shared this at one of our support meetings a few months ago. I really think a lot of it comes down to your identity, and who you identify, what you identify as, and your perspective on life, and your perspective on your past. And I think those two things are really what can set you on a path to success and healing, or set you on a path of victimization and destruction, and really self-destruction, which ultimately affects other people. And for me personally, I was raised in church, but it didn't really settle. My mom is Puerto Rican and my dad is European Jewish descent, so that alone, like, I don't look like my parents. My sister looks exactly like my mom, so like, you see that and you're like, and even like little things like wearing makeup, my mom was like, I don't know how to do makeup on your eyes, like you. So there's just different things that are a constant reminder that you're a little bit different from your family, and that's not necessarily bad, but it can, when you're struggling, and when you're a teenage years, you're already obviously insecure because of just being a teenager and all the changes and everything. But for me, when I really understood, like, my identity, it doesn't matter what I look like. It doesn't matter, if I was raised with a Korean family, speaking Korean, knowing all the cultural rituals, or being raised American with, a Puerto Rican mother who was very family oriented, they're very loving. And my family has never, ever once made me feel like I wasn't part of them, from the beginning. But really, when I realized, okay, my identity doesn't really come in what I look at, or where I've been, or who I am physically. It's more about who I am in Christ. And I think after I found that, like, as my foundation, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I never find my biological family. Like, I've come to terms that probably won't happen, and I'm okay with it, because I was blessed with this amazing, loving family, and I married into another family that's like fully embraced me, and and I love my in-laws and everything. So I feel you know, grateful for that. And then just my perspective isn't like it wasn't like, oh, my mom didn't want me.
Yeah.
You know, my biological mom and dad, they, you know, that's a lot of what you hear, you know,
Yeah.
they didn't love you, they didn't want you, were you bad, is that why you were given up, you know, all these things. It's like, no, they knew, she knew really at the time that I could not have the life that I have now if I was raised in Korea, you know. And so I'm actually, having my first son like made me realize just what a sacrifice she did to have me, especially culturally. It's a lot different in Korea than it is here. You know, if you have a baby and you're not married, it's not like taboo, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can succeed, you can still create a great life for you and your child, where that really wasn't the case, you know, in Korea. And so to be able to have been given this opportunity is more of what I see. You know, her love was so deep and so great that she said, I'm going to sacrifice, you know, and, you know, having a baby and going through all of that and then not having your baby to show for is, to me, one of the biggest sacrifices. So I see it more as I'm extremely grateful that she would have done that. And if I ever get an opportunity, it would be not to say, why did you, but like, thank you so much.
Yeah.
So.
I love all that. And I actually, again, just shared this, which is so funny. I shared this the other day about like just my upbringing, and every person that you interact with is doing the best that they can with what they know, what they have, what they've been through. And so if you look at it that way, perspective, if you can look at it that way, you'll stop blaming you or trying to go back to a moment and try to change it, right? And so I love that. It's all about how you see things. Can you talk more about that? Like, how was that a process, or do you feel like from the get-go, or your family, like just you worked on it? Like, how can you talk about that?
It was a process. You know, I think as the older you get, the more mature you get. You know, I've never been someone that's really been affected by like what people think or say, but obviously there are, you know, there's those tender things that you're a little bit more susceptible to for criticism and judgment. And so I think moving towards my teenage years, I was suicidal. I was really just not in a great place. And that's kind of where I think I felt like I was kind of like given, okay, you can either become a victim, because I don't think I really was a victim, but become one and become bitter and angry and resentful, which to some people, like, I had some sort of a justification for, but not enough to destroy my life, you know, and to be hurtful to my family. And I think, but then ultimately, I think having my first son and being able to realize all that goes on in pregnancy, like you said, the sacrifice starts once you find out you're pregnant. You can't have certain things, you can't do certain things because you want to protect this baby, right? So to go through all of that and then, you know, have this baby and then still look like you're pregnant, which to me, I was like, no one told me I was gonna look so fat still. I thought once the baby was out, like, I'd be back to being skinny. And I was like, this is so evil. So, you know, going through all of that, you know, looking like you're still pregnant. I wouldn't even leave the house without the baby. I'm like, if someone asks me how, you know, when I'm due, I'm going to hit them. But, you know, all like the petty things. But then all of this, but you still have this baby, right? To be like, wow, all of this sacrifice was for a reason, you know? But then to say, okay, here's my baby right after. I don't even know if I was held or named by her, you know? And so that, I think, was really when my perspective completely shifted. And I realized, like, man, how could I ever have doubted her love? How could I ever have been bitter at this woman who, one, I don't know, but two, like, she gave me the best that she could, you know? And that's not for everyone, you know, but she did what she felt was right, and I 100% think that it was the right decision. And I cannot imagine handing over my baby and what to your reality, to know that it is better to give your baby to a complete stranger, not knowing what's going to happen, and knowing that you might never see them again, to me was just, it held so much more weight once I had my son and realized everything that goes on, like you were saying. And so I think it started obviously early on, you know, when I realized I didn't look like my parents. It took me a while. I think I was like 5 before I realized. I was like, Mom, I don't look like my sister. Like, what happened? But it is a journey. And I think, you know, it's little choices, and it's little, you know, my parents constantly affirming me, and being raised at a church where we were very small but close, like, and my extended family went to that church too. So we were raised in a community that was really acceptable, and I think and believed in me, believed in my family, and I think that's huge, you know. And not everybody has that. And so that's another reason I think why Embrace Me is so awesome. One, the name itself, like, is so, like, it literally says what we do as a nonprofit, as a ministry, as a community of, you know, people. But not everybody has that luxury, I guess you could say. And so it's awesome to be able to be a part of something where we can say, look, even if you have no support anywhere else. I mean, some of our families are like, yeah, my parents will call our kids stepkids, or they won't even really call them our kids, and it's so hurtful. And so to be able to say, we want to come and walk beside you and hold you up and help you, is just, it's really an amazing thing.
That's amazing. Okay, so here's one last thing, because we're already at like 21 minutes. Affirming.
Yes.
You said that your family affirmed you, you know, throughout your life. I think we could talk about that, because I think there's a lot of times where they might not have that, which looking out to a community like Rika's would be a wonderful idea, or looking towards a church, or just groups, whatever you want to do. But I think there's something there in terms of affirming yourself. So if you cannot get to the point of reaching out to someone else or a community, figuring out a way to affirm yourself. Were there moments where you did affirmations, or you affirmed yourself to kind of get you through? Because even though it's interesting, because when you think about other people affirming you, it's like one thing, but when you can finally let it click and you're like, when you believe it yourself, that's when it makes sense. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. You know, again, I think it's part of your journey is learning and growing and realizing, like, it's okay to be different. It's okay. I actually told my son this the other day. I said, you know, if everybody looked the same and acted the same, talked the same, it would be really boring. You know, and so you don't want that. Like, God created you, you know, the way you are, and He wanted you that way, because if everybody had big noses or small noses, you know, he's 6, so I have to, you know, break it down. But, like, just starting that talk with him too, that, like, it's okay to be different. It's okay to not look like everybody else. And when you believe it is really, that's when it really makes sense. And I think it was probably in high school around that time that I was starting to become more, like, actually trying to act, not like cutting, but like looking for pills or something. Which luckily my parents had, like, vitamins, so that was good. OD on vitamin C, guys. Like, but there was a specific moment where I remember, like, going back to my room, and I was just so broken, and the song came on that said, He'll take the pain away, although you've been searching for such a long time, He'll take the pain away. And I just remember, like, just falling down, like, just crying, and really, like, okay, God, like, I have nothing. Like, I just feel so crappy, you know? And I really, that's when I really felt Him, like, you know, when you're raised in church, you hear all these Bible verses and Bible characters, right? And you're like, well, that's great. God must have really loved them, or they were really special. But then it really hit me, like, but that's how He sees me, you know? And I'm just as important as, you know, the President of the United States, or someone who's, like, on the brink of curing cancer, or, you know, like, sometimes you think you're so insignificant because you're just a little person, you know, just trying to navigate life. But that's when it really hit me, like, he cares that I'm crying right now, even though other kids are dying from starvation or being killed and murdered and tortured and neglected. He still cares about me too. And I think that was like a huge perspective shift too, where I was like, it doesn't matter, like, because I feel insignificant doesn't mean that God thinks that. And so I think when I started understanding that, and obviously you have your good days and your bad days, but I don't really care what people think, you know, like, you don't like me, okay, then don't be my friend, but like, I'm still gonna do me, you know, and if you're not gonna get with it, then get off. But and not in a disrespectful way, but it's like, I know what my purpose is, I know where I'm going. You don't want to be a part of it, sorry, bye, you know. If you want to, you're more than welcome to jump on and let's do this. So yeah, but obviously, you know, the older you get, I just turned 35, so I'm like, you know, I feel like I've come more into my own and know who I am, and again, like, what we want to do myself and what I want to do as a family, as a mom, you know, and so yeah.
Awesome. I love my 30s. I was very, very sad in my teens. My 20s, I was very confused, and I just did like just random things. But my 30s, I love my 30s. So those of you who are in your 20s, just wait.
30s is good.
30s is good. And I've heard so much about people who are like in their 40s and their 50s. It's like another level. So I'm like, I love aging. I don't care. I love it. So we're going to end this now because we're almost at 30 minutes. But Rika also is part of a company. And I believe we haven't set it up yet, but she had asked me to set up a table. So she's going to do that at some point, and I'll post it on here so you guys can come meet her, talk to her about her, the company that she's with. Do you want to quickly kind of tell them what you're doing, or maybe just give your contact, or we could just post it on the bottom?
Yeah, well, it's non-toxic cleaning supplies and household items, which is, you know, really big. It helps with conservation and sustainability, and just, you know, not wasting, or I forgot the word, but anyways, it's a little bit earlier than I normally am awake, but it's called Norwex. They're really awesome products, and I really think that everyone should have them in their households. They're warranted for 2 years, which is incredible. And yeah, I can get you my contact information.
We'll put it on the bottom so you guys can reach out to her. So she can come and like show you guys her stuff. But like I said, we're gonna have a table here at the store so you can come meet with her, talk to her, and do all those things. So I'll be posting about that soon. We just have to set a date so that we can do that. So I think that's it. We didn't plan like how we were gonna do this. None of this was scripted. I literally was writing notes as she was talking, but done is better than perfect. And I talked to her right before as we were both driving here, and I told her, this connection between us happened for a reason. Talking about like her childhood, which is like crazy because we were just both doing like stuff at this event. Like all of it happened for a reason, and this moment right now it was through us that it was going to come out to hopefully help somebody out there. So there's nothing we could prepare for because this is all higher than us, and we are, you know, lifting each other up. And when you do that, the world, God will, you know, lift you up. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to lift you guys up. And I think that's it. So thank you so much, Rika. I really appreciate it. That was amazing. And
well, and if anybody has questions on foster adoption or anything along those lines, you can reach out to me too. It doesn't have to just be for Norwex, but yeah, if you have questions, especially if you live in the IE, our nonprofit and ministry would love to partner with you and help you, you know, in whatever part of the journey you're at. So yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a beautiful day.
Yeah,
Bye.
Bye.